Hi, it's Pixie Glore here, and we are on day 2 of watercolor. And today what we're going to learn is some creative watercolor techniques. And this is what makes watercolor so much fun. So I've started out by showing you here a list of watercolors to buy and some samples of the paint. So, okay, here we have a supply list for watercolors. And these are ones I like to use. So let me start out by showing you that, okay, to get started, all you need to do is go to Walmart and buy a set of these, Daler Rowney, and they're very inexpensive. And they're perfectly fine for getting started with this. As you go along, if you really get into it, you can get into the more professional grade watercolors. And even if you've got your kids watching this, they can get started with these, and you can too. I knew a watercolorist who used nothing but these kind of paints and did figures with a Sharpie and colored it in with that. And so these are perfectly fine. They are not permanent watercolor. They're not light resistant for long term. These professional grade watercolors are light resistant and will last a very long time. So let's start with the colors that we need, regardless of what brand you get. So I have liked most of my life Winsor Newton brand, Winsor Newton paints. And Winsor Newton comes in a student grade and a professional grade. And I would suggest that you just get the professional grade one at a time until you've gotten it all. And so this right here is the Winsor Newton professional grade. You see it says professional watercolor on it. So this is a good set to get started with. I end up using lots of different brands because I like to experiment. Daniel Smith is a great brand. They're online. Da Vinci is, you can get this at Cheap Joe's Watercolor Online, which is a great site with lots of tricks and tips, and it's fun to go there. This is a whole bean artist watercolor, and these are out of, I believe, Japan, and they're excellent watercolors. And there's also another brand called Senalier, which I don't have right here to show you, which is excellent too. All right, so what we want to do is we want to have a cadmium red, okay? And I have a Scarlet Lake here instead of cadmium red. I like it. It's just a little more, I don't know. I just like the color. It's a pretty color, but cadmium red's fine. And alizarin crimson is fine. And then I definitely love to use permanent rose. Cadmium orange. Then with yellows, here's a lemon yellow, and a cad yellow light, and a medium yellow, and a yellow ochre. So you at least want a cad yellow and a cad medium and a yellow ochre. Spring's coming up, and we will be using a lot of these wonderful light yellows to mix different kinds of greens. In greens, we have the Viridian, which I showed you is the Winsor Newton brand, and this is a hooker's green, which is a nice green. For just a plain green. Mostly we will be mixing greens. Then we have blues, and I definitely like an ultramarine blue and a cobalt blue, which I believe this is I don't know what brand this is, but it's a cobalt blue, and it's nice. So that cobalt is great for doing skies. It's a very clear, transparent glue. Ultramarine blue is a granulating blue and great for lots of almost everything. So that's an essential color. And then a burnt sienna. So this set will come with black, and we will not be using black. And it might even come with burnt umber, which I don't use those dark colors. I like to mix them. And I will mix burnt sienna with different colors to achieve my darks. So that's the supply list for watercolor. I told you in the last thing, the palette of your choice. This palette here is is the one that I use now for going outside, particularly because it's got a seal around it. It doesn't drip, which is nice. And again, like I said before, we lay out the color wheel like the rainbow. Lay out our paints like the rainbow, or that's how I like to do it. But whatever way you do it, you want to be consistent. You'll need to get some Pebeo drawing gum, and this is a resist. It's a lot like rubber cement and a rubber cement pickup. And there's all kinds of fun things you can do with this. So this is nice to have around. I don't use it a whole lot, but there are certain things that it's very great for. And I want you to get a candle or a white crayon, okay? Oh, even a colored crayon, because it's all waxy and it makes another kind of a resist. Tape makes another kind of resist, and I also use tape to tape down my piece of paper before I work. Another supply that you're going to want to get is cut up an old credit card to different shapes. Okay, just get one. You don't need a whole sack of them here. You can cut them up to different shapes. This is a piece of a kneaded eraser. We won't need that today, but I'll show you about that because watercolor paper is very delicate and you don't want to use the eraser like this that's on your pencil. You want to use a kneaded eraser. It's much softer and much more gentle. You'll want to get a pencil for sketching our designs, and I like this 2H. And the reason I like it is it's hard enough that it gives a nice line. You can get it dark enough and it doesn't look dirty. If you use just your regular pencil like this, these are 2 HBs, and they're okay, but they look kind of muddy and they leave little granules in the paper, and that can kind of get into your paint and make it look a little muddy. But it's perfectly okay to use it if you need it. Another thing that you need to get is a spray bottle. Now you can use whatever spray bottle you have around the house, or you can buy these little spray bottles at the art supply store or at the cosmetic store. And you want to try some different ones out because they all spray differently, okay? Another tool which is fun to play with, this is called a boiler bottle. You can get this at the art supply, and you put your watercolor paint in there, and this sharp little needle leaves a little itty bitty teeny tiny line. So that's got its uses. Another thing that I like, and this I showed you last time, the sponges. Okay, well, sponges come all different textures and sizes. So you'll want to you can buy a sack of these for like next to nothing. And they sell them at Walmart too, and at Michael's in the craft store. And it's just nice to have around for different textures for stamping, because look at the end of that. That's totally different from that, right? So it makes a different texture. And then this is a fun one. This is an onion skin, and I will show you how to use this today when we do our creative watercolor techniques. Right? So those are the basic supplies that you need to get. I showed you last time the brushes, a 1-inch, okay, and these come synthetic, or this is a squirrel blend, a 1/2 inch, and then some round brushes. Now eventually you'll want to get some good quality ones, like this is a Kolansky Sable, and these are very expensive. This is a size 8. I have different sizes, these 8, 10, 3, 4, but you can get synthetic brushes that are pretty good. There's, I think this brand called Silk that is very inexpensive and works great. This is another one. This is a small one, probably a 3 or 4, size 3 or 4, size 8 or 10, 1/2 inch and 1 inch again. And then get a rigger. This is called a rigger. And they're a liner, and there's a lot of fun stuff we can do with that, okay? And then you'll want some kind of little pocket knife for scratching, and I'll show you how I do that. Some of the brushes have these beveled ends, and that's for scratching. Another thing is a razor blade that you can scratch and do things with that. So I think that is about it on the paint. And so I wanted to show you then next, usually I try to separate these so I could grab them easily, but my box has gotten kind of messed up. Okay, so here's a list of the creative watercolor techniques. So what I want you to do is I want you to, I'm going to do these one at a time, and I want you to pause the video and then do your own. Okay, so first get your supplies ready, get them all laid out, get a blotter. I showed you this in the last video. This is my blotter. A paper towel will do. So you want a paper towel, tissue, you want a bucket of water. I've got a bucket of water. How do you like that? That is an old chamber pot that I found that somebody told me works great, and it does. But you can use anything. In the field I use a collapsible watercolor, bucket, dog water bottle, water bucket, and I'll show you that later. Eventually, maybe we will go out in the field. I don't know, but so you want all your supplies together and ready, and you'll want to have your paint either right above your canvas, which I'm going to do so you can see it in the video, or to the right if you're right-handed. What you don't want to do is you don't want to grab your paint and go over your painting and drip. So you always want your tools on the right side if you're right-handed, on the left if you're left-handed. So here's a list of all of the different kinds of creative watercolor techniques that you're going to learn today. And this is long. It's going to take a while. You might want to pause the video and come back. But again, I do want you to pause, and I'll remind you most of the time. Do a flat wash. I'll show you how to do it, and then you pause. And then you do it, and then you come back and you see the next one. And you can go as fast as you want. For some people, this may be a refresher, and they'll just go on up and say, wow, I've never seen how you do razor blades, or I've never seen how you do this onion skin. So some people may want to just go up and find all these things. But this is the beginning, and this is what makes watercolor so much fun. All right, with that, let's get started.